the most fundamental fact that we have to realize on this path is that we cannot find happiness in the world. And if you're watching this video right now, then you probably already know that. But the problem is that you're still trying to remove your suffering. People get stuck on the path for 20, 30, 40, 50 odd years, trying to remove their suffering to no avail. Do you realize why this is happening? This is happening because you cannot remove suffering. Suffering is not something that we can possibly ever remove. In the same way that we cannot find happiness in the world, to that same degree and to that same likeness, we cannot do anything to remove our suffering. If we could do something to remove our suffering, everybody would be happy, because everyone is always doing things to try and remove their suffering. But what we find is that the very act of trying to remove our suffering is the very suffering we are trying to remove. How is that possible to remove that? The very act of doing it is the very thing that's creating it. So the only way we can ever remove our suffering is if we remove the desire to remove our suffering, which you cannot do unless you realize that there is nothing you can do to remove your suffering. If we are seeking for decades, people say, oh, this video will end seeking, this will end seeking. Seeking will not end until you are completely done with seeking. Seeking is an energy that we have to exhaust. Unless you fully, absolutely are 100% convinced that there is nothing on this planet that will remove your suffering, you will continue to look for things to remove your suffering, because you'll constantly be thinking, well, there must be some stone I haven't turned. There must be something I can do, because you don't yet understand the nature of what you are. Because if you understood the nature of what you are, you wouldn't be looking for happiness and you wouldn't be trying to remove your suffering, because the nature of what you are is an all-embracive yes to everything. It's an absolute all-embracive hug to your entire experience. It doesn't disregard, doesn't avoid, doesn't try to remove anything. And that's what you are. So the problem is when you, the source of existence, want to fundamentally remove something from existence. When you have a thought, a feeling, a sensation, the experience of a person, and you resist it, you're basically saying, I, that which does exist, the primary source of existence. And by the way, the only way existence can exist is if it is an all-embracive, forgiving everything the freedom to exist. If we, as that, want to remove something that does exist, well, one, we can't, and two, we will suffer the consequences of that attempt. So we need to see that suffering is a desire. Suffering isn't fundamentally a desire, but there are some desires that are on behalf of separation. And those desires are the desire we have to fundamentally remove something from existence. But we cannot stop things from existing. So the only thing we can do is to first, we need to recognize that the only pursuit we should be seeking is the truth. Not truth sometimes and sometimes remove my suffering. We have to realize that truth is here, that removing our suffering is here. And they seem like this is at one end of the spectrum, this is the bottom, but it's more like a circle. You see? It's more like a circle, and we want to be at this top of the circle. We want to be seeking the truth of our experience for the sake of truth. This purifies the desire and our intention. So then we can actually be in openness, because we can't be in openness if the thing we're doing is trying to remove our suffering. That creates more suffering. You see, the desire to remove our suffering is the very desire we're trying to remove. So it's impossible to remove it. The desire will never remove itself. It is the perpetuation of itself. That's its life source. So the only thing we can do is to realize there's nothing we can do to end our suffering. Thank God, think this to yourself, thank God I have sought every single possible avenue I could ever have taken and finally realized that there is nothing on God's green earth I can ever do to remove my suffering. Just like there is nothing on God's green earth I can do to find happiness in the world. They are two of the same things. If we realize we cannot find happiness in the world, then why are you still trying to remove your suffering? Because to remove your suffering would mean that you are still trying to do something in the world to find happiness. So the only thing we have to find to convert this entire process, to end the seeking cycle, is to start realizing that for the first time in my life, I'm going to start to seek the truth of my experience. What is this thing that I'm experiencing every single day that I do not want to face? That normal state of mind, this normal experience that I've been experiencing my entire life, the one I keep trying to escape, the one I keep trying to take drugs to remove, the one I keep trying to find relationships to remove, the one I keep trying to find practices, spiritual books and teachers to remove. Let me face the one thing I will not look. And the reason that the one place the ego won't look is its direct experience is because it does not exist there. The ego does not exist in the facing of its direct experience. It burns in the flame of the now. It cannot survive there. So if we're holding on to our identity, the belief in being separate, which is basically the energy of the seeker, the last place we're going to want to look is our direct experience. The place that we've never been, the place that we've always been but never wanted to look. We've been doing this our entire lives. We've been facing life in peripheral. We've been facing everything off to the side, because if we were to stare it right in the face, we would never find suffering there. And the end of suffering is the end of the separate self. And if we believe ourselves to be separate, then we would lose that part of our identity. And to us, that would seem, from one point of view, as a death, which nobody wants to die, obviously. But there is no death. The illusion that you have is that you are an individual finite being that is contained in the brain, inside the mind, inside the body, looking out into a separate external world. But that is a complete load of nonsense. The body, the mind, and the world are inside what you are, and you experience it. Like, imagine there's infinite pool of Wi-Fi, and you are a phone inside the Wi-Fi, and you are the Wi-Fi. Think of it like that for a moment. Obviously, you're not separate from the Wi-Fi. In this example, you're an infinite field of consciousness experiencing itself through a finite point of view. It's more like a whirlpool. If you think of water, the whirlpool is a crystallized, localized point of view of the water, not separate from the water, just a localized place. That's what you are. So what we need to do is to start exploring our experience in this way and be devoted to the truth for the sake of the truth. That purifies all desires. That ends the seeking. The seeking beyond that point is left behind, because there's no seeking energy left. The seeking is grasping, it's trying to fight its experience. Every time a problem arises, it's like, Jesus Christ, another thing in my way. The adventurer, the explorer is what you are at this stage. If you're understanding these words, you're excited, you're passionate. This is more of a science project to you than anything else. It has to be seen in that way. It has to be seen as an art. If it's not, you're just going to be removing your suffering perpetually over and over and over again all your entire life. It has to come to an end at some stage, and let this video be that place where it comes to an end. Because what other option is there? You've tried everything else. Try the one thing you've never done. Start looking at your direct experience for answers, and stop looking for practices and things to try and change, remove, manipulate, or alter your day-to-day current experience. Why not face the one thing you've never tried to face? The simple, raw experience that you're having every single day, and the nature of that one that is experiencing it. So here's a very simple thing that you can do whenever you catch yourself now moving forward in those moments of trying to remove your suffering. Realize, oh, this is my seeking mechanism taking place. I'm trying to remove my suffering. What I feel in this moment is something that is completely normal, completely natural. I'm going to give myself the freedom to suffer. I'm going to give myself the freedom to feel whatever I'm feeling, give myself this freedom to suffer. I've resisted it all my life. I'm no longer going to resist that anymore. I'm not going to resist it anymore because I think I should know better, because I think I'm more spiritual than that, because I should be more enlightened than this. We're just going to give ourselves the freedom to suffer. The next thing we're going to do is to recognize what in my experience right now is forcing me to look away from my experience. Oh, it's this sensation, it's this thought, it's this feeling. Face it directly with courage, with curiosity, with passion. It's no longer a challenge for you. It's no longer a problem for you. It's something that you're willing to face. You look at it, you feel it, you understand it. And then you realize it's taking me to happiness. It's taking me to my being. It's taking me to this absolute place of pure peace and inner contentedness, which I know is my own being, my own awareness, my own sense of being alive. That which is alive is fundamentally real, fundamentally exists. This which is alive in you right now, which is hearing and understanding these words, is pure infinite consciousness. It has no border, no shape, no boundary. That is where you are. That is the seat of existence. That's the place to be. That's the peace of place. The place of peace and the peace of place. That's where you are. Be there and face that directly. Surrender your experience, just like you're always in a surrender to your experience of everything taking place. Do not let yourself fall victim to this resistance of suffering and this seeking attitude. The seeking attitude is an energy that is becoming exhausted. It's exhausting, it's run out of fuel, and now it's turning into a fun, loving adventure where your only interest is in understanding your experience, purely because why not? Why would you not want to understand the one thing you could ever experience, which is exactly what you're experiencing? There's nowhere else to be, there's nothing else to do, there's nothing else to experience. So why not understand that? Instead of trying so hard to remove something that doesn't need, nor ever could be, removed. I hope this video was helpful. I have a free community, the link is in the description. I'd love to see you there. I give meditations away for free every single week, and it's full of amazing people. So yeah, thank you for being here, guys. I'll see you very soon. Take care.